Welcome to the spring commencement for the University of Arizona James E. Rogers College of Law. First things first, congratulations. You have earned this day. May 10th, 2013 is a date you will long remember, one that I think we will all remember. We want this ceremony to carry weight, to be a capstone for your many Arizona law moments, and to celebrate with your family and friends the profound things that you have accomplished. Our community is made up of the people who teach, work, and learn at the College of Law. Our larger community includes all of our graduates who represent the College of Law in the profession and in the world. Your training and time here marks a chapter in each of your life stories. Stories that were started long before you came here, stories that have many chapters yet to be written. Walking across this stage today will be students who are their first in their extended families to graduate from college, let alone law school. Others faced great adversity in getting here, and some while here. More than a few sat every night at the kitchen table, helping children to do their homework before starting a long night of their own homework. More than a few perhaps wish they could have exchanged the homework. In my experience, when our kids see my wife and I reading and writing, it helps to nurture the idea that learning is not just about school, but about life, that the pursuit of knowledge, the search for wisdom, never ends. But in the next 6 hours, but in considerably less than the next 6 hours, we will honor your experiences and your stories, what brought you here, what you have achieved. We will award degrees to 3 students completing the SJD, 13 completing the LLM, and 148 students who will now put the following initials after their name, JD. We'll hear other stories as well from one of the country's most respected jurists, as well as from 2 wonderful student speakers selected by you, their classmates. We'll recognize 4 people, 3 highly successful alumni, and a person who devoted a large part of her working life to creating successful alumni. We celebrate their service to the profession, to the community, and to our country. Finally, we'll welcome you into our larger community, the community of Arizona Law alumni. In keeping with tradition, we now call on vocalist Robert Wenzel to open our commencement ceremony with the national anthem. Please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you. Please be seated. Let me acknowledge our special guests who have joined us on the stage this evening, each of whom will be more formally introduced later in the program. Please hold your applause until they have all been introduced. The Honorable Mary H. Murguia, Judge for the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, who, as your convocation speaker, has a great story of her own to tell. Our convocation honorees, Mary Birmingham, Anil Kakani, Michael King, and Sharon Marcus Kern. Brad Vanalik, the president of the Law College Association, and graduating students Kaylin Barter and Janae Foster, who were selected, as you know, to speak. Thank you for being here. Also joining us on the stage are those who have dedicated their professional lives to your education and who have made it possible for you to even imagine that graduation day would come. They have been your mentors, your helpers, and I hope your friends. As members of the legal profession, the Arizona Law faculty and administrative team now become your colleagues as well. I will call their names, ask them to stand, and request again that you hold your applause until all the introductions have been made. First, I will introduce the professors that alums I speak with always remember. They're small section professors. Professor David Marcus, who has traveled back to Tucson to celebrate this moment with you. Let's call that an exception to the rule. Professor Jamie Ratner, Professor Chris Robertson, and Associate Dean Brent White. Professors Barbara Atwood and Ellen Bublik were not able to be with us tonight. We will express your sentiments to them. Continuing with members of the faculty, Professor James Anaya, Professor Paul Bennett, Professor Jean Brauker, Associate Dean Michael Chirazi, Director of Clerkships and Professional Development, Virginia Clark, Associate Dean Kirsten Engel, Professor David Gantz, Professor Robert Glennon, Professor Robert Hershey Lear, Professor James Hopkins, Professor Mona Imel, Dr. Willie Jordan Curtis, Professor Boris Kozolczyk, Assistant Dean Bianca Mack, Assistant Dean Paula Nalon, Professor Suzanne Rebay, Associate Dean Sally Ryder, Professor Susie Salmon, Registrar Mandy Shoemaker, Professor Andy Silverman, Professor Billy Shostrom, Professor Roy Spees, Professor Melissa Tatum, and Professor Rob Williams. Let's give them a hand. Before you knew any of us, before you walked through the doors at the College of Law, we made a promise to each other. We promised each other that your law school experience would add a major chapter to your life story. We have been active co-authors in writing the story of your time here. But our mutual promise was not time-limited. It continues for your lifetime. We have chosen each other, and now Arizona will be emblazoned on your mind, on your resume, and I hope on your soul. And in your practice and your contributions to society, you will represent your clients and yourself. You will also represent us, the University of Arizona. We hope you will stay actively connected to the College of Law, that you will celebrate our growth and help us through challenges. And we will continue to enjoy and celebrate your stories, just as we have for the more than 7,000 graduates who have come before you for 98 years. Here to welcome you to the International Arizona Law Alumni Network is our class of 1999 alumnus, the current president of the Law College Association, Brad Van Alec.
Thank you, Dean Miller. Good evening. It is indeed an honor to stand before you as the president of the Law College Association. On behalf of the LCA, congratulations to the class of 2013 and welcome, almost officially, to the ranks of Arizona Law alumni. Now, 14 years ago, I remember sitting in this exact auditorium over here, surrounded by friends. We had all taken this common journey. Our professional dreams and our careers were taking shape, and the most important thing we did that night at graduation was to stop, to push pause, and to take it all in. And that's my message to you tonight. Push the pause button big time. Step back. Take inventory of the friends you have made over the last 3 years and all those who have made this accomplishment a reality for you. The Law College has been your home. Not only is it an exceptional educational institution, it is a place where your professors know you by your name. It's a place where civility trumps competition, yet competition still inspires excellence. And it's a place where you've created lifelong memories with now lifelong friends. Take a look around you. Look to your right, look to your left. In 15 years, one of you are going to be the general counsel of a company. In 10 years, someone's going to launch a company. In 20 years, one of you will be a judge. In 5 years, one of you might start your own firm. In 25 years, one of you may be the managing partner of a firm. You may be each other's clients. And of course, no alumni speech would be complete without making reference that I would be shocked if none of the law school romances converted to full-time relationships, perhaps even marital vows. The truth is, your classmates are as much a part of your future as they are of your present. Hold tight to one another, cherish your connections, tweet often, friend each other, and make sure you like the changing events that you're going to watch on Facebook as your friends' careers evolve. But don't forget the most important thing about those connections. Don't just let the digital divide limit your ability to connect up with people. Visit each other, go to lunch with each other, call each other, and most importantly, celebrate each other's successes. Now, as you prepare to leave the physical space of Arizona Law, think back to your first year. Remember the excitement of beginning this journey and discovering the amazing classmates who were there beside you. You knew it then, and I'll remind you now. It is a very special person who chooses Arizona Law. Our admissions office handpicks the people who they know will enhance the entire class and make an impact on the larger world. In addition to the 150 people sitting next to you today, there are about 7,000 other Arizona Law alumni representing our 98-year history. We, like you, are part of the special Arizona Law breed, sharing the connection of devotion to the institution that gave us all our start, but also the rigorous educational journey and shared values that brought us to Arizona Law in the first place. We, like your classmates, stand ready as alumni to support you, guide you, and learn from you. As you begin the next phase of your professional life, the Law College is here to serve you and to serve as your conduit to alumni. Class of 2013, push pause a little longer, enjoy this time. When the ceremony's over, go make it happen. Stay connected. And when you can, give back in thanks to the place that made it all possible. Congratulations on behalf of the LCA to each of you on this special day, and thank you for this honor of speaking with you today.
Thank you, Brad. Few things give us more pleasure than to share the narratives of our many successful alumni, to recount their achievements, which are many, and to reach out when there are setbacks, which are also part of life. Our group of 4 convocation awardees tonight were nominated and selected by the faculty as models of professionalism and dedication. Our first award is the Honorary Alumna Award, being given to Mary Birmingham, who recently retired. Mary's 18-year tenure as the Assistant Dean for Career and Professional Development was highly productive for generations of law students and for the College of Law. Her many accomplishments are illustrated by establishing the first State Bar of Arizona task force to examine hiring barriers that challenge disabled law students and lawyers, organizing the first national career fair along with Georgetown Law School for law students with disabilities, earning for the college in 2006 Award of Distinction from the National Association of Law Placement, assisting the Arizona Bar in establishing its first task force on GLBT issues, and publishing the country's most comprehensive guides for legal positions in government and in public policy. Mary's work in organizing out-of-state interview programs was far ahead of the curve, strengthening our national reputation. These are simply a few examples that illustrate her longtime commitment to you and to your futures. Even though she has vacated her office, I know you remember her, and here is what she said about you. When you were 1Ls, Paula Nalon and I knew your class was different, unique. You were focused and creative about the job hunt, and you knew what you wanted to experience even when we were having palpitations that you were turning down some offers. Follow your heart. It will take you to the right place. Receiving the Distinguished Honorary Alumni Award is former Dean Mary Birmingham. Mary. Let's step to the side so we can do it. Our next awardee is Mike King. With both his bachelor's and JD degrees from the University of Arizona, Mike King is a wildcat through and through. As exhibit, what was going to be number 1, but I'll make it number 2. Anyone driving through downtown Phoenix can see an enormous neon A beaming from his 15th floor window. Could be a model. Mike is a founding member of the Phoenix law firm of Gamage and Burnham, where he has practiced in wide-ranging areas from creditor rights to commercial litigation, commercial lending, and hospital law, as well as in general business transactions and agreements. He has supported the life of the college and the University of Arizona in myriad ways. He's a mentor for and employer of our students, and for many years has been an active member of the Law College Association, which seeks to engage alumni and build strong support for the college. He's particularly interested in keeping our foundations strong and has worked hard to educate alumni on the importance of legacy giving. Recently, Mike and his colleagues decided to help us expand our career service presence in Phoenix, our first employee based in Phoenix, by giving us space at the Gamage firm. Just among friends, this makes us the first public law school in Arizona to have a location in downtown Phoenix. Well known for his volunteer work in the Valley, Mike is a man of faith and wanted to share a favorite thought with you in this Old Testament verse. Remember to act justly, love tenderly, and walk humbly with your God. Receiving the University of Arizona Distinguished Alumni Award is Michael R. King. Mike? So it looks like you're gravel. So let's step up here. After graduation from Arizona Law in 1986, Sharon Marcus Kern moved to DC to work at the Department of Justice in the Civil Division, Office of Consumer Litigation. There she became a national expert on so-called date rape drugs used to facilitate sexual assaults. She is now an assistant U.S. attorney in DC, where she has served for many years prosecuting felony sex offenses. She helped to create the DC Human Trafficking Task Force and convicted 2 of the most dangerous human traffickers ever prosecuted in DC. Sharon now supervises and mentors assistant United States attorneys prosecuting misdemeanor domestic violence cases. Sharon asked me to share a few words with you. As lawyers, we are in a unique and privileged position of serving the interests of others. In addition to providing our clients thorough, diligent, competent advice and service, we also have an obligation to listen to our clients, really listen to them, without judgment, preconceived notion, or impatience. Often our own life's experience gets in the way of really listening. If we allow ourselves to put aside what we expect the client to tell us, not only does the client feel that they can tell us all of the facts, including those that may not advance their claim, but we also grow individually and professionally. Another important message is that no case and no client is more important than our obligation to provide ethical and legal service. We may feel pressure to push the ethical boundaries on behalf of our client, but do not do so. This is your life, your profession, your bar license. Protect and treasure those things above all. I would like to note that Sharon's father, Neil Kern, is a 1963 graduate of this law school. He was presented with a Distinguished Alumni Award in 1993. He's here tonight, and I'd like to ask him to stand, although we may not be able to see him, so that we can acknowledge that he's here. Thank you, Neil, and thank you for the lights. Please join me in recognizing the service of Sharon Marcus Kern with this Distinguished Alumni Award. Our alumni network is strong and increasingly global. One outstanding example who has made it more global only more recently is Anil Kakani, class of 1995. Anil earned his undergraduate degree in economics from UCLA, a master's degree in public policy from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, and of course his JD from Arizona Law. He has distinguished himself in the executive and legislative branches of the US government and in private business. Anil served as senior advisor to the director of the Office of Management and Budget in the Clinton administration, and as a legislative aide to Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton in the US Senate from 2001 to 2004. He then spent time on the private side, serving as director for commercial development and innovation for India at Corning. He then returned to government, working at the Treasury Department in the Obama administration. Recently, Anil returned to the private sector and moved from Washington to Mumbai. He is now the executive director of cross-border initiatives at Mumbai-based Anand Rathi & Company, a mid-sized boutique investment bank. Anil sent these comments. Even in my non-traditional career path for a law school graduate, not a day goes by where I don't utilize the skills I learned in those classrooms on the other side of Speedway. As an investment banker in Mumbai or as advisor to the president's budget director or treasury secretary, there are few things I've worked on where the inherent power and limits of the law haven't been central to the policy or the transaction. And while from a different vantage point, even while working for a large technology company like Corning Incorporated, the objective of each of these roles has revolved around the improved delivery of the basics: education, healthcare, clean water, clean air, and reliable power to millions of citizens. It is such a privilege to travel here from India to say thank you to Charles Ayres, to Tony Massaro, to Jane Korn, and to many others who provided me with such a strong foundation to work from, and to say to all of the graduates today that what you've learned over the past 3 years gives you not only the skills, but also the responsibility to make a positive difference through the work you choose. Anil, would you please join me on the podium? These are but a few of the fascinating alumni stories that have earned this law school, now your alma mater, its reputation statewide, nationwide, and worldwide. By selecting our next two speakers, the class of 2013 has given us a preview of its collective potential. Kaylin Barter was born in Tucson, grew up in Oxford, Ohio, and earned her BS in Natural Resources from Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. She came to us on an unusual path that has included work as a wildland firefighter, a stream surveyor, a waitress, a ski instructor for people with disabilities, a hospital workflow consultant, a bookkeeper, and a program manager for an environmental nonprofit. Here she has focused her studies on natural resource and land use law, areas in which she hopes to practice in the near future. She has been an engaged student and an outstanding citizen of our community with her grace, compassion, and humor. And I might add, tomorrow at a graduation for CAPLA, for the School of Architecture and Design, her husband, Stan Barter, has been chosen to speak for his class in exactly the same spot. Kaylin.
I shouldn't have worn heels tonight. And perhaps I should have used a larger font, as everyone else here has appeared to have done. So, with that, welcome everyone. Welcome faculty and staff of the College of Law, distinguished guests, alumni, friends, family, current students, and soon-to-be graduates. Welcome to the random people who wandered in thinking that this was some sort of free event featuring a cultural experience and you're now too polite to leave. It's okay, you can go. The rest of you, I'll keep it short so you can all leave soon too. When you get selected as graduation speaker, this really predictable thing happens. Your classmates start sharing ideas about what you should talk about. And while I already knew that you have opinions on everything, I was a bit unprepared for your strong opinions about what you wanted to hear tonight. And so with that, I will apologize in advance, because as you can already tell, this speech will not, in fact, be like the love child of the Gettysburg Address and I Have a Dream. It likely will also come up short on avoiding all tired platitudes, and making you laugh, cry, and remember this moment fondly every day for the rest of your lives. Also, there will be no interpretive dancing, though I encourage you to address this failure of mine as you walk across the stage to receive your hard-earned diplomas. It is both reassuring and intimidating to speak to the group of you assembled here tonight. Reassuring, because, like all of you in the foreground, I've gotten plenty of practice during law school getting called upon to talk about things that I don't yet understand. And I would venture a guess that most of us here are still assembling in our minds a coherent story of what exactly has happened to us over the time that we've spent here. Reassuring, but also intimidating, because apparently a lot of other people think that you're pretty swell for graduating from law school also, and you decided to bring all of them. Thanks. Really. All of them. So to even the score for choosing me to speak tonight to all of the people that you know, you've earned yourselves a last assignment. Law is not a spectator sport, so this graduation speech won't be either. You have to talk too, but instead of cold calling, I would prefer it if you just shout out the right answer. On that note, I'll introduce myself, so I'll start out the same way our first law school speech started 3 years ago, when most of us were assembled in room 164, the Aris Auditorium. And it started just like every speech given by our former dean, Larry Poneroff. I'm Kaylin Barter. See, you're good at this. Now here's a harder one. What's the most common answer to any legal question? You guys are on fire tonight. It's the most common answer because it's the right answer. Perhaps we didn't know it when we first showed up here, but we soon found out that there just aren't that many cut and dry answers when you apply the law to the facts. There's that law part, cobbled together from other legal traditions, shaped by precedent and chock full of gray area. And then there's that fact part. They call them fact patterns for a reason, in that there's generally a pattern to the way that a story unfolds, be it a broken contract, a car accident, or a property line dispute. But it's the subtle differences in facts that often define the outcome. The right answer is the one that explains why it's right. It depends. For the past 3 years, we've used this phrase to start most of our answers in class. And going forward, we're going to use it a lot more if we're doing it right. Soon we're going to be experts. People are going to come to us for answers. And we'll have to understand the law and the facts and know that missing a fact might change the law that we have to apply. And the facts won't be laid out in a casebook. We'll have to ask lots of questions. We owe it to our future clients to be confident in our growing expertise, but to remember always that our clients are the experts on the facts of their case. And it's not only the facts that will change from case to case. The laws will change, and the ways we apply the laws to the facts will change, and it'll be a tough pill to swallow, but sometimes the very best source of information on those changes will be recent graduates just like us. So as we go into our first jobs after law school, and for some of you out there, your first jobs ever, it depends on us to seek always to understand the unique facts our clients bring to us and to seek always to improve the practice of the law. It depends on us also to recognize that we're not doing this alone. We depended on others to get us here tonight. Our parents, our family, our friends, our loved ones who haven't gotten nearly the attention they deserve while we pursued a degree that required a lot of our time and energy. They gave us the gift of support, knowing that eventually we would come back to them. So here's another quiz. What do you say when someone gives you a really nice gift? Exactly, you say thank you. Now, going forward, we need to remember this gift that we've been given. Others have invested in us, and we owe them a return on their investment. And as law students, it's easy to think of investments in dollars, like the dollars we have invested in this legal education. And it's easy to think of returns in similar terms, like the paychecks we're all going to bring home, eventually. And we will bring home paychecks. even if we don't know quite how or yet, just yet. But I will ask you to think of this particular investment differently in terms of support. Our families and friends have invested their support in us, and going forward, we will pay them back with interest by supporting them. It depends on us. It depends on us to leave the office, spend quality time with the people that you've asked to come here tonight. It's going to take hard work to maintain balance in our lives. But seeing this group of people that you've asked to come here to support you, I think it's going to be easier for us than for most others to keep perspective of what's really important in our lives. And so with that, I'll complete this last law school assignment that you stuck me with tonight. And don't worry, you all get A+s for class participation. Congratulations on your accomplishments so far, and thank you for your wonderful company over these past 3 years together. I'm expecting great things.
Thank you, Kaylin. Originally from Chicago, Janae Michelle Foster received her BA in Public Health Studies at Johns Hopkins University, and after graduation, worked in Washington, D.C. for Families USA, a nonprofit healthcare advocacy organization in Washington, D.C. There she worked almost exclusively on issues surrounding healthcare reform and low-income populations. During law school, she worked in some rarefied settings with internships for former Representative Gabrielle Giffords and at the White House. Yes, that White House. After law school, she plans to work in the area of public interest or civil rights law with a particular focus on healthcare, labor, and employment issues. Like Kaylin, like so many of you, Janae has been a leader, challenging and improving this law school. Janae.
Good evening, fellow graduates, family, friends, professors, staff, and administrators. And I also want to thank all the non-compliant, law-breaking people out there, because if we thought the employment situation was bad now, we would be doomed, all of us. Today, we are officially graduates, alumni of the University of Arizona James E. Rogers College of Law. Our time here has prepared us for long, prosperous careers in law, but it has also done some damage to our social skills along the way. We will never be the same. The way we process occurrences in our daily lives is forever changed. For example, before law school, if a friend told me that she was getting married, my response to her would be, "Congratulations, I am so excited for you." But now I like to spot all the issues. So it's more like, "Congratulations, I'm so excited for you. Are you gonna get a prenuptial agreement? What state are you getting married in? Is it a community property state?" And if there's any doubt lingering just about how socially awkward we've all become, let me give you another example. It was 1L year at bar review. I was with a few small section friends when a stranger came up to me and proceeded to hit on me. It must have been right after my civil procedure exam, because all I could think to ask him was, "Do you have jurisdiction?" Thank you, Professor Marcus. He looked at me like I was the crazy one. I'm like, really? And thanks to law school, I now feel like I can argue my way out of anything. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, I got my car towed. But I used it as an opportunity to put my legal skills to the test. Before I went to the lot to get my car back, I did the natural thing, which was conduct some research on the law governing tow companies. I found the relevant provisions in the Arizona statutes and went there armed with the law and photographic evidence to make my claim. Although I was able to convince the lot attendant to drop his unofficial gate fee, ultimately I was shut down. Fortunately for the tow company, it was a Saturday and the company's office was closed. But had it been open, yeah, I would have gotten all my money back. And by the way, if you're not laughing at these jokes, that's exactly my point. This is the way we are now. Whether we like it or not, we may be able to control what we say and when we say it, but those instincts will always be with us. And that's a good thing. It means that we received a quality education. And that's a testament to the hard work and talents of our amazing faculty and staff. I'm grateful to them, and even so more to my fellow 3L graduates. We've had our ups and downs, but I couldn't imagine going through this without any other such an amazing group of people. Your diligence, persistence, and passion got you this far. As most of us continue on our job search, we should remain diligent, persistent, and passionate about our families, our work, and this profession. To borrow a quote from the current White House counsel, Kathy Rumler, at every stage in our lives, we will have the chance to prove ourselves based on who we are as persons and the merit of our work. So good luck, be well, and get to work.
Thank you, Janae. We are delighted that Judge Mary Murguia could be with us today to deliver the convocation address. Judge Murguia received her Juris Doctor degree from the University of Kansas School of Law and her Bachelor of Arts and Science in Spanish and Journalism, respectively, from the same institution. She was the first Latina to serve on the U.S. District Court of Arizona and has served in many capacities, including Assistant District Attorney in Kansas City, Kansas, Assistant United States Attorney for the District of Arizona, Criminal Deputy Chief, and Director of the Executive Office for United States Attorneys in Washington, D.C., among many others. At each career turn, her accomplishments and hard work have paved the way for continued success, for new opportunities. In March 2010, she was nominated by President Obama for a seat on the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. Judge Murguia was a founding member of the KU School of Law's first Women's Advisory Council, which provides the dean guidance on the recruitment, retention, and preparation of women students for the rigors of their professional lives. As far as she has come, she has retained a deep humanity. Here are the comments of a colleague describing her. Despite her impressive background, Mary has always been a humble person. She knows no strangers in life. She is a person that knows the name of every administrative assistant, receptionist, security guard, and every other person who comes at the end of the day to clean up. In addition, while she has a strong internal moral compass, she is never self-righteous. Mary believes and expects the best in all people. Let me introduce your convocation speaker, the Honorable Mary Murguia.
Good evening. Buenas noches. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I am deeply honored to be with you here on this very special day. I would like to thank Dean Mark Miller and all of the folks at the University of Arizona James E. Rogers School of Law for this very kind invitation. Dean Miller has distinguished himself as a leading scholar in criminal procedure and sentencing, an area of the law that has been important in every stage of my career. You are fortunate to have him as your dean. Let's give him a round of applause. The University of Arizona Law School is one of our great institutions of higher learning, especially when it comes to educating a diverse student body. Just look around. The law school's small size and dedicated faculty, combined with the resources of a large research university, has provided you with a high-quality education and I know prepared you to be excellent lawyers. I am a product of a state university and law school and recognize the special place that public institutions of higher education play, especially in times when fewer can afford an expensive education. I would like to applaud the University of Arizona for recognizing some of these challenges and taking the bold step of being the first law school in the country to reduce tuition. To the dean, the professors, and staff, you all should be very proud of your achievement. Congratulations on your success and for everything that you do. Mostly, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to you, the University of Arizona Law School class of 2013. It has taken a lot of work, a lot of time, and some considerable expense to get this to this point. For many of you, it has been a long journey. This is a tremendous milestone, but I want you to keep in mind that no one takes this journey alone. Somewhere along the line, someone believed in you. Somewhere along the line, someone told you you could do this. Perhaps it was a teacher, a professor, a counselor, or a coach. And this someone encouraged you to dream, but also assured you that you could become a lawyer and that it was possible. I hope you will thank that person today. One of the great privileges of my job is the opportunity to talk to students, graduating students, and young lawyers. This is a very challenging time for our country and for our community. Some days it is very difficult to stay optimistic in the face of so much divisiveness and intolerance, but when I look around and I look out at all of you, I'm inspired, and it gives me great hope for our future. You are entering the legal world at a very interesting and challenging time. In addition to the demands of work and clients and resolving difficult legal issues, you will also face demands of our society, namely by your status, mostly by your status as lawyers. One that I would like to briefly highlight is the need to volunteer your services for the less fortunate. Your obligation to serve those that are unable to pay for a lawyer is rooted in the privilege to practice law. You should take this obligation seriously because a small amount of your time can make a huge difference in the life of someone who would otherwise have no chance of being represented by a lawyer. I would like to highlight one example of an area where you can make a real difference. Let me just offer this background. This year, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of Gideon versus Wainwright, a case that forever changed our criminal justice system by declaring that the Sixth Amendment's right to counsel was a fundamental right. I'm sorry, this is your last lecture, though, okay? And we also celebrated the 50th anniversary of the arrest of Ernesto Miranda by the Phoenix Police Department, an arrest that led to the familiar warnings that bear his name, read to those placed under arrest. Gideon's golden anniversary has been marked by a discussion about whether the promise of competent representation remains unfulfilled. A large number of the cases on the docket of the Federal Appellate Court on which I sit are challenges to convictions based on ineffective assistance of counsel. While many cases do not ultimately succeed on this ground, the quality of defense counsel can be disheartening. In addition, another statistic I wanted to offer you is over 50% of the cases, and this includes all cases in the Ninth Circuit, including civil and immigration, over 50% of the cases filed last year, and again, Ninth Circuit is the largest circuit in the country, 50% of them, over 50%, were filed by pro se individuals. Individuals representing themselves because they could not afford legal representation. That's a staggering number. And one of the most difficult legal issues that your generation will face and is facing now is the intersection of the right to counsel and the increasingly complex litigation occurring in immigration courts. A recent Supreme Court case highlights the important link between criminal and immigration law. The Supreme Court recognized that for many criminal defendants, the most important result of their conviction might be the significant adverse immigration consequence. Because of this, the Supreme Court held that the Constitution entitles a criminal defendant to competent advice regarding those specific consequences. The Supreme Court case addresses only the right to representation in criminal trials, but the legal community is increasingly turning its attention to the level of representation in immigration courts. Some courts have suggested that due process requires competent counsel in immigration hearings in certain circumstances. Just a few weeks ago, a federal district court in California ordered the Attorney General of the United States to provide assistance to detained immigrants with mental disabilities. This case was litigated by a lawyer from a law firm working pro bono in cooperation with groups dedicated to protecting the rights of immigrants. But by volunteering their time, these lawyers significantly impacted the rights of people in this important emerging area. Just recently, the Department of Homeland Security announced that it was implementing a nationwide plan to identify immigrant detainees with mental disabilities and provide counsel to these individuals. I highlight this example because this is the kind of potential influence you now have. This is why the certificate you are about to receive is real. You, like the lawyer who volunteered his services, could represent a Mr. Gideon, a Mr. Miranda, or an unknown immigrant detainee with mental disabilities, affect their lives and the lives of many others in significant ways, and change the legal landscape of this country. That is before you. That possibility is distinct and real. And I encourage you, whether you practice in the area of criminal law or corporate law or business litigation, volunteer your time. You can make a significant difference in the life of someone who ordinarily would not have the result that the detained immigrant with mental disabilities had. I am confident that I do not need to remind you about your obligation to help others, because many of you know firsthand the importance of receiving a helping hand, and perhaps getting assistance at a critical time in your life. Like many of you, I am also a first-generation college and law school graduate, and I am here today for a couple of reasons. Because of a couple of reasons. One, because I received a number of helping hands, and also because of the work, dedication, and determination of my parents. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about my parents and my family, because the high honor that has been bestowed upon me as a federal judge and presenting this commencement address today is really a tribute to them. My father came to the United States in the late 1940s. He was born in Oklahoma, but returned as a young boy to Mexico, where his parents were from. His parents were from a small rural community in Michoacan, Mexico, a very small town called Tangancicuaro. With very limited English, he came to report for military service towards the end of World War II. Like most immigrants, he was also looking for a better way of life. He tried different jobs. He worked at an ice plant and then later as a steel construction worker. He later sent for my mom and older sister, and they settled in Kansas City. Both of my parents could be described as humble and simple people. When my mother and father were reunited in the United States in the early 1950s, the contrast between their lives in Mexico and this country was dramatic. Growing up in rural Tangancicuaro, Mexico in the 1920s and 1930s was like growing up in a rural community here in the late 1800s. My father rode a horse to deliver goods for the shopkeeper he worked for. My mother washed clothes and dishes in the nearby stream and ironed clothing with the metal irons that need to be placed on hot metal plates. Neither one of my parents were able to pursue a formal education in Mexico due to very difficult personal and family circumstances. They were pioneer-like people during those times and really even after coming to the United States. With 7 kids, my mom did not work outside the home. When my twin sister and I were born, my brother Ramon was just over a year old, and my brother Carlos was 3 weeks from turning 3. We lived in a very small house for a family of 9 with only 1 bathroom. The kids basically slept dormitory. Growing up, we had very traditional family roles, the boys and the girls. We had no phone until I was in the 8th grade. My mom washed clothes in a wringer-style washer for the 9 of us until I was in college. We didn't have a clothes dryer until I was in college as well. As a lower income class and hardworking couple, it was tough. Society presented its own set of challenges as well. In Kansas City in the early 50s, when my parents went to the movie theater, they had to sit in a separate section of the theater. My father and other Latinos and other persons of color had to use a separate bathroom at the steel plant where he worked. My dad worked very hard, but never made a lot of money. In the early 80s, however, 5 of his kids were in college, all at the same time, thanks to scholarships, work study, and financial aid opportunities. 6 of the 7 kids have received post-secondary education degrees. Interestingly, 4 of us became lawyers. My brother Ramon was the first in our family and in our community to attend Harvard Law School. Ramon is a lawyer in private practice in Kansas City and a civic leader. He is one of the founders of the Greater Kansas City Hispanic Scholarship Fund, now with over $1 million endowment, and is one of the first Latinos to serve on the Board of Trustees for the Kellogg Foundation. My brother Carlos was the first Latino to be a state court judge in the state of Kansas. He served in the position for 10 years, and in 1999, he was confirmed by the United States Senate to be a federal judge in Kansas. Carlos is the first Latino to serve as a federal judge in the District of Kansas. Janet, my twin sister, we're identical twins, served as a deputy assistant to President Clinton as deputy director of the Office of Legislative Affairs. In that capacity, she served as the chief liaison to members of the United States Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives, and worked in the White House the last 5 years of the Clinton administration. Currently, Janet is the president and CEO of the National Council of La Raza, the largest Hispanic civil rights group in the country. In 2000, as you heard, in 2000, I was confirmed as a federal judge in the District of Arizona. After serving as a state prosecutor in Kansas and federal prosecutor in Arizona, in 2010, I was confirmed as a judge on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I was the first Latina to serve as a federal judge in Arizona. Carlos and I are the only brother-sister combination in the country to serve as federal judges. Looking back, it is obvious that education was very important to my parents and to each of my siblings. Despite my parents' own lack of formal education, They recognized the power of a good education. I share my parents' story because I believe my parents are primarily responsible for what I and my brothers and sisters have been able to do. It is because of some very basic principles that they believed in and that they clung to: faith in God, a strong work ethic, love of family, knowing the importance of being a good neighbor, and a clear appreciation for what we have and what is offered in these United States. So despite the challenges you have before you, and you've heard words like the sequester, fiscal cliff, doing more with less, I know that like the generations before you, you will rise to the occasion and meet them. You will recognize that the secret in life is to see challenges as opportunities. I am confident in this because this is an extraordinary nation and an extraordinary time when you think about it. Two people with very few means from a small town in Mexico who worked very hard, sacrificed much, and dedicated themselves to the education of their family and service to their community. I am a witness to, and in many ways, evidence of their American dream. I have seen it come true for me and my family. It is a credit to them and a credit to this country. They wanted us to know, my parents, they wanted us to know, despite challenges, that in this country, no matter who you are or what color you are, there is opportunity if you are determined to find it. My dad had his own way of saying this. He would say, "El sol sale para todos." And translation, the sun shines for all of us. My parents knew this country was special, but they always wanted us to remember our heritage and where they and we had come from. They understood that one of the reasons this country is unique is that people of different backgrounds and cultures could come together with others, and you could succeed here. Though I must confess that sometimes my mom had a slightly different definition of success. Shortly after I became a district court judge, and Janet was still working in the White House, my madrina, my godmother, was talking to my mom in the kitchen. Janet and I were in the living room around the corner and could hear the conversation. We couldn't see my mom, she couldn't see us, but we could hear the conversation. My godmother said to my mom, "Amalia, debes de estar muy orgullosa de las cuatas, de las gemelas. Una es juez federal y la otra trabaja en la Casa Blanca con el presidente." Translation, Amalia, you should be very proud of the twins. One is a federal judge and the other works in the White House. Janet and I were listening closely to hear what my mom said in response. My mom paused and said, "Comadre, estaría muy orgullosa si supieran hacer tortillas de harina." Translation, "Comadre, I would be very proud if they knew how to make flour tortillas." My mom wanted us to understand and would consistently remind us in her own way that humility was key. So I look back on my family's journey, I see that all of these things, hard work, determination, faith, a good education, and humility, helped us get to where we are today. I share this story not to appear immodest, but because even though you may have traveled a different path, I believe we probably share a similar journey. You are about to start a new phase in your path. You are further empowered now, especially with your law degree, to chart your own course and write your own American story. You too are living the American dream. You now have Juris Doctorate degrees. That is so valuable and powerful. As you go forward on your journey and in your life, my hope is that you will also help to open the door to that American dream a little wider so that others can see that their own dreams are also possible. If you'll permit, I'd like to tell one last story. My sister Janet worked in the White House the last 5 years of the Clinton administration, and I was there and able to witness when my mom and dad went to the White House for the first time, went to the Oval Office, and got to meet President Clinton for the very first time. It is a moment I will always remember. Janet took us into the Oval Office, and we waited for President Clinton to come in. My mom, when we walked in, had quietly said while we were waiting, "Cómo llegamos hasta aquí?" Translated, how did we get to here? When President Clinton walked in, my dad stood straight up, and sticking out his hand, he said to President Clinton, "Thank you for giving my daughter this opportunity." President Clinton, looking at both my parents and in response to my dad, he said, "You're right, Mr. Murguia. I hired Janet, and she walked you into this office, but you are the ones that got her here." I share this story with you today because I think it is important to pause and acknowledge how you, graduates, got here. We should recognize your achievement today, of course, and your hard work, absolutely. But it's a safe bet that there are a number of people out here behind you that helped you get here today. And along the way, you had the support and love of your family and friends, and we should give them a big hand. As I close, just a few words of advice since there is so much to be done. Work hard, follow your passion, remember integrity matters, give back to your community, and learn how to make flour tortillas. Thank you very much. I wish you all the very best. Congratulations.
We have a small token of our appreciation for your thoughts and the time you spent. It was very touching comments, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
One of our graduation traditions is a musical interlude from the Sisters-in-Law. They are a group of law school faculty, staff, and students with a love of song who come together at graduation to express the joy in your accomplishments. The song they will sing was adapted and introduced for this occasion by Ann Carl, a 2003 alumna.
Lift up your voice, let's start this celebration. Work for justice to be one for everyone in every nation. Give me that freedom, Give me that freedom. Give me that freedom, freedom, freedom. Lift up your voice, let's start this celebration. Work for justice to be won for everyone in every nation. Give me that freedom. Give me that freedom. Give me that freedom, freedom, freedom. Lift up your voice and start this celebration. Work for justice to be won for everyone in every nation. Give me that freedom. Give me that freedom. Give me that freedom, freedom, freedom. Lift up your voice, let's start this celebration. Work for justice to be won for everyone in every nation. Give me that freedom. Give me that freedom. Give me that freedom, freedom, freedom. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Freedom, freedom, freedom.
We have celebrated you in song. We have shared our love of the law and our hope for you as lawyers. We have talked about family and faith and what brought you here. I think it's time to award some degrees. We will now award SJD degrees to 3 members of our community. One of them is with us today. 2 others were unable to attend, but we want to recognize all 3 of these accomplished students. An SJD is the highest degree offered by the College of Law, and earning it is an ambitious, exacting endeavor requiring years of study and scholarship beyond the JD degree. Professor Melissa Tatum, who directs the Indigenous Peoples Law and Policy Program, and Professor David Gantz, who directs the International Trade and Business Law Program, will read their names. Deans Willie Jordan Curtis, Kirsten Engel, and Brent White will present our graduates with their diplomas.
Today, we celebrate the 7th graduating class of IPLP SJD students. IPLP's 3 graduates represent 3 indigenous groups from 3 countries on 2 continents. Lola Davis, originally from Nigeria, and Brian Van Stippen from the Oneida Nation in Wisconsin could not be here today, but we want to recognize their accomplishments. With us today is Wilma Jackknife of the Cold Lake First Nation in Alberta, Canada. Wilma, please come forward.
On behalf of the International Trade, and my microphone works, his doesn't. On behalf of the International Trade and Business Law Program, I am delighted to honor the doctoral degree that has been received this year by Bassem El Hindaway of Cairo, Egypt. Unfortunately, Bassem is not here, but nevertheless, we are very pleased to be presenting only the 2nd SJD degree so far by the International Trade and Business Law Program.
We will now move to the LLM degrees, which is a Master in Laws. Today, we award LLM degrees to 5 graduates in the IPLP program. Those 5 graduates join 83 other LLM alumni from the IPLP program who represent 39 indigenous groups in 13 countries on 6 continents. 3 of this year's graduates could not be here today as they've already departed Tucson, several of them to begin employment. To Eldina Bear Don't Walk of the Crow Nation, Deborah Dahl of the Passamaquoddy tribe, and to Terrell Hunsinger, we send our congratulations. Would the 2 other graduates please come forward? Letitia Stover of the Navajo Nation. Akila Kennison.
Again, on behalf of the International Trade and Business Law Program, I am pleased to welcome the members of our 18th LLM graduating class. Would you all please come forward? Irena Polovets of Ukraine. Lourdes Perez Medina of Mexico. Gabriela Salcido Monreal, also of Mexico. Oh, no, sorry. Rogelio Calderon of Mexico. Kevin Verbelen of Belgium. Albudo Ablase of Burkina Faso. Ulbek Abanov of Kazakhstan. Come on.
Dilshad
Bibulev of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Iro Kabayashi of Japan. Akash Sanghadia of India.
Dean Miller, Professor Gantz and I present to you the LLM and SJD graduates.
Today's graduates, he won't let me get near the mic.
He'll be near the mic for a good bit of the evening. Today's graduates join a global network of Arizona Law alumni now working on 6 continents. To these students who represent the University of Arizona around the globe and who are indeed shaping the world, we thank you for enriching our community with your experience, your new perspectives, your skill, and your deep passion for the law. By the authority transferred to me for this ceremony by President Ann Weaver Hart, and vested in her by the Arizona Board of Regents, I now confer on you the applicable degrees of Master of Laws or the SJD degree. Jamie, will you call the JD graduates?
I will call the JD graduates. Stephanie Grace Swift. Jessica Ann Zink. Sheila Gulker. Setere Lara Miller-Lyle. Caitlin Irun Duffy. Kirsten Tobin. Michael Rex Shumway. Andrew Floyd. Christopher Gast. Lisa Ferdiort. Caitlin Shaw Hollywood. Robin Catherine Nesswood. Julie Wilson McNerney. Jessica Perry Jansapar Ross. Oksana Holder. Sagan Beater. Jordan Emerson. Jennifer L. Bonham. Jessica Ann Gale. Heidi Elizabeth Kraus. Kristen McManus. Meredith Lynch. Francis Crevier. May Munir Inabi. Michelle Behan. Sean Coulter. Michael Stoner. Virgilio Barazarte Suzarini. Yolanta Rusinski. Brian Tedder. Matthew Walker. Joel Ricard. Jermar Townsend. Catherine Schneider. Katie Vole. Jacob Kavkowitz. Timothy Stackhouse. Daxon Lee. Matthew James Merowitz. Sierra Bhattacharya. Miriam Catherine Diggins. David Richard Ramey Buckarell. Monica Pertia. Andrew Nicholas Vanell. Benjamin Anthony Nucci. Tom Putara. John Walters. Ron A. Cooper. John Gabriel Anderson. Andrew Joseph Baranowski. Kara Rooney. Angela Rasmussen. Ashley Suzanne Matthews Gilmore. Carol Lamoureux. Nikhil Domley. Jason Reed Brandenberger. Jamie Lynn Watkins. Britta Phillips. Laura Sandu. Alexandra Felchlin. Eleanor June Rushforth. Shaylee Claire Beasley. McKindra Morin. Michael Philip Malfatone. Sarah Elizabeth Epperson. Rachel Fleming. Glenn Pelster. Lance Christensen. Nick Verderami. Nathan Wade. Ian Burrell. Matthew Chandler. Deborah McCain. Laura Hendrickson. Michael Roy. Catherine Fisher. Christina Rose Fisher. Matthew Vincent Passanisi. Rebecca Emily Katz. Courtney Lee Henson. Morgan Curran Johnson. Ashley Zimmerman. Jonah Rapaza. Nicholas J. Brait. Robbie Upal. Joshua David Miller. Mitchell Reyes Aguilar. Daniel Clough. Tyler Cobb. Harris Shane. Maziar Momeni. Dave O'Brand. Gregory Satram. Michelle Buckley. Corey Kaplan. Alexander Michael Hecker, and happy Mother's Day to his mom. Christopher Jeffrey. Matthew K. Paul Freeman. David C. Potts. Andrew B. Compton. Corey Bingham. Mike Elzinga. Matt Palmer. Kevin Donald Zinke. Ransom Young. Brandon Tryon. Patrick McGarry Holkins. Clarence Patterson III. Stuart Daniel Cottle. Brian Mosley. Elise Pecanino. Stephen Lynn. Soumya Kumar. Daniel Graham. Ana Laura Castillo Boteo. Kristen Yoland. Danielle Roberts. Brenna Larkin. Heather Coe Smith. Molly Kincaid. Andrew P. Michelle. Raphael Jonathan Abraham. Victor Nielsen. Stephen Bolton. Ian Abay. Leslie Moraga. Joseph Bevington IV. Stephen Schneider. Athanasios Papaiteo. David Yoakum. Grant Denton Willie. Edward Hands. Bradley Terry. Jeffrey Coe. John Gregory. Jared Jordy. Sabrina Lochner. Azad Mola Hosseini. Janae Foster. Kaylin Joy Goldie Barter.
May I ask all JD graduates of the class of 2013 to rise. Please remain standing, graduates, because you still need these words. By the authority transferred to me for this ceremony by President Ann Weaver Hart and vested in her by the Arizona Board of Regents, I confer on you the degree of Juris Doctor. Will the LLM and SJD graduates also stand? Everyone stay standing. I'm going to exercise my prerogative one last time, one last assignment. We've done this already, but we can't do it enough. Just behind you are the people who make this day possible, your parents, your partners, your children, your friends. As hard as you have worked, they have worked. please, one more time, turn and honor them with a round of applause. You may be seated one last time and only briefly. Very briefly. As we conclude the 2013 convocation in well under 6 hours, it's worth remembering it's not just the law school that leaves its imprint on you. You have left your imprint on us, individually and collectively. You have come and now you will go on the cusp of this law school's second century. Write your amazing stories through your work and through your lives. Do so with the passion, the intelligence, the flair that you have demonstrated here. As new opportunities arise, seize them, and we will celebrate all of your victories. Face your challenges squarely, and we will do all we can to help and be there then, too. It is through these moments, the victories and the challenges, that our stories are shaped, that our character is defined. Let me conclude that evening with the insight of two of our greatest contemporary philosophers, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Thank you. That's it. I believe it's time that we recess from the podium and you continue your celebration. Jamie, do you start?